we will be taking a look at how to organize widgets using layouts in that of the Tkinter. And Tkinter actually provides layout managers to arrange widgets nicely. So, and grid layouts actually they are better used for if you're actually creating something like forms. All right. So we want to experiment with that in this video. So what I want to do first of all is to import my Tkinter right here. To do that, we're going to just do import, and this is going to be Tkinter right in there, and I'm going to just import that as an alias. So for that reason, what I'm going to just simply do is just do as tk right here, and then down here let's create our main window. And to do that, we're going to just simply put that into a variable called a root, and then we'll go ahead and set that to tk this way, and then we can actually go ahead and just do .tk like that. All right, so we do have that right there. So the next thing is to set the title, and I'm going to just do root dot, and this is going to be the title of the work we want to do right now, or the app we want to create. So let's call this something like login form, and we'll have that in there. So after that, we can just go ahead and create a label. So to create a label, let me just put a comment here and just say create. And of course, we have done creating of a label before now. I think that was actually the last thing that we did in our work right here. We're just trying to take that a little bit further. So if you do .tk right here, a tk dot label, then we can go ahead and just pass in root right here, introduce a comma, and then the text that we need is actually going to be that of we're going to just say something like a username. All right, so for that reason, if I do this, I'm going to just set the text to be equal to the following, and what I'm going to just do is just say something like username. So that means that we're going to just basically like bring out an input field. We're going to just basically bring out a field that is going to just simply say username. And users can actually, we're going to at a later time maybe provide an input field where he can actually go ahead and enter a username right there. So we're going to do .grid, and within this grid right here, what we're basically doing with grid is to just basically lay out the element the way that we want that to basically be. All right, and when we talk about grid, we're just basically taking a look at something like a spreadsheet, all right, or Google spreadsheet or something of that nature. All right, in that of the Google, where we're just going to be dealing with whatever we want to set up right here, taking a look at the rows and then columns. All right, and the first one I want to set right here, I'm going to just row and set that to something like 0. Right, so what this means is that I want this particular field right here, this label right here, to just basically want the first input right here, the first field right here to kind of spread from that of the row 0. All right, I'm going to introduce a comma and just do something like column right here, and I'm going to just basically set the column to be equal to 1 right here. So what this simply means is that I want it to start from row 0 and move to column 2. All right, so in fact, I'm going to put a comment in here. So this means first row and then second column. This is just simply what it means, and this is actually called a second column because the counting actually start from 0. So this rightly could have been called something like 0 right here. All right, but the counting actually starts from 0. So 0 is 1, and then 1 is actually 2. All right, so that's just basically what that line is really doing for us right there. So I want to copy this line right here, and the first field I've actually created right here is just for that of the username. So I want to create another one, and this one is actually going to be for the password field. All right, so for that reason, we're going to have to change this to password. And if we have that, of course the grid is actually okay, but I want it to like move from column 1 right here, a column 2, and then a row 2 right here, not really column right here. I'm actually basically setting this to from row 2 right here to that of the column 1. All right, so I'm going to set this to 0. So what this simply means is that, let me paste the comment in here. It means that we're starting from that of the second row, and then it's spreading all the way to that of the column 2. All right, that's just basically what that is actually doing for us right there. So we do have that in there, and the next thing I want to do right now is that since we have this right here, if we save the changes and then try to run the code, we may not actually be able to see that. But what we want to do first of all is to find our ways to make sure that we add that onto the main the main window, right? And to add that to the main window is really very simple. So when we get down here, I'm going to just do username entry, and I'm going to just go ahead and set that to be equal to, this is going to be tk dot, and this is going to basically be entry right here. So I'm going to just do entry, and within this entry right here, what we want to do is to go ahead, we're going to just pass in root right here. That's just basically how we can actually attach that to the entry. And remember, this is just basically username. Also, let's type this correctly. This is going to be username, and this is how I just making sure that we kind of include the username to the main window right there, so that when people launch the application, you should be able to see a field that says something like, not a field but a label that says something like username. All right, so we do have that right there. there. And the next thing I want to do, I want to copy this line, and if I duplicate that line, the next one I want to work with is going to be the password. So I'm going to change this to, let's change this to password, right? The password entry, and let's type this correctly. And what we want to do, of course, we're going to, this is going to be, of course, this is just going to be entry right here, and then we do have it set to the root, but then we need to add an additional field right here, and that just basically won't be able to like make sure that we can actually have the ability to hide the password field, because as people are actually going to be typing into the password field, we want to be able to hide whatever that they are typing. All right, and to do that, maybe we're just going to be transforming whatever that they're typing to this asterisk right here. So let's put that right there, and I'm going to just put a comment in here and just say something like hide password. All right, so that's just what that is really doing for us right there. Now we do have those things created. The next thing I want to do, let's make sure to take away this right here. All right, so this just make sure your phone is actually looking neat, so like this. So the next thing I want to do right here is to go ahead and then use the grid system to be able to like create the input fields right there. All right, so the next thing I want to do right here after we have entered this is we basically go ahead and then maybe try to add all of these things to the main window. But for now, what I want to do, let's first of all try to run this right here. So I'm going to do root.main loop. Sorry about that. This is going to be main dots, and this is going to be, a run dot main loop right there. All right, so if we save the changes, let's say we'll run this code right here. See that we do have this field in here. But then if you take a look at that very well, you see that we do not actually have the input fields yet. All right, so even though I think we have some errors with the way that this, even though I think that we do have some errors with the way that this is actually displaying. So we do have this right here and also have password down here. So we can actually debug that by taking a look at our grid system right here that we have actually created already. So to correct that, I think if we set this, let's set this first thing right here also to 0, which means this is going to be first and also first right here. All right, so let's change this to first. This is going to be like this. Let's just do st just like that, and take away this right here. Save the changes, and then we'll run this. Let's stop that and run that again, and if you take a look at the results, and that should just basically be on the same line with each other right here. So that's just basically how that should just kind of look like. So down here, we want to find a way to add these input fields to that main window, and specifically under, not really on that, but just right after those field that we just created, those labels that we just created. And to do that is really very simple. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just first of all work on the user entry right here. So I'm going to just do user entry, and I'm going to just do that grid, and within this grid system right here, I'm going to just the first one set that to row, and the row is actually going to be set to 0 right here. And after that, we need to work with the colon right here. So this is going to be colon, and let's make sure that we set the colon right there, set that to, we're going to set that to 1. All right, so that is that on that line. I want to copy this right here, and then on the next line in here, what I want to do is to work on the password entry field. So this is going to be password entry field, and I want to set the first one to 0 to 1 right here, and set the next one actually to 1 right here. All right, so we do have that right there. So if we save the changes right here, and then we stop the application and then run that again, if you notice, we're going to just basically have the input fields added right there. Look at right here, so we can add our name right here and do whatever we want to do. Right, so the password, we can just go ahead, and then if you watch what as we're typing the password, it's actually kind of showing that in stars or asterisks, and that was actually made possible with this particular thing that we kind of added right here. So if you took this away, save the changes, and then run that again, and you're going to notice that if we start typing in this particular field right here, you see that it's going to just kind of be displaying the text just as plain text. All right, so that's just basically what this is actually doing for us right here. So just kind of hiding the stuff in there, and I think it's just pretty cool, right? So open this up, and let's say this, and you see how that is actually working. So we do have that right there. All right, so the next thing I would like us to do is to find a way to add a button, which I think we have never actually added a button since we've been working on this application right here. Since we'll be using that of the Tkinter, and we want to learn how to do that in this. So I'm going to just do button click. So let's create a button here first of all, and to create a button with that of the Tkinter, you can just do .tk, and this is going to be tk.button right here. And what we're going to basically do with the button, we need to pass in routine here, introduce a comma. I think we don't even need a comma yet. Maybe at a later time where we want to like find a way to submit the button, we can actually do I think we'll need that because we need a text, and let's just do text, set that to be equal to, and we could just basically call it something like login. All right, and if we want to style this, first of all, let me save the changes and then run this code. So if we stop and run and take a look at this right here, we're not seeing anything yet. So basically what we need to do, let's go back to our coding here. We do have this right here, right? And the next thing we basically want to do is really very simple. I'm going to add a grid system in here to be able to kind of display that. So for that reason, I'm going to just do .grid, and open up our parentheses right here, and I want to set that I'm going to just set the row equal to 2 right here, introduce a comma, and the next thing I want to set is actually the colon. So this is going to be colon right here, and let's go ahead and set that to be equal to 0 right there. All right, so let's save the changes right here, and if we stop this and then run that again, we should be able to see that button right there. So if you take a look in here, see that we do have a button right here. If you click on it, it appears like a button. So however, what I want to do is let's try to make this like spread across 2 columns right here. So if we want to make that spread across 2 columns, we can add a third parameter right here and just basically call that a colon span. So this is going to be colon span, and you can just go ahead and just set that to be equal to 2. That means we want it to kind of spread across 2 columns. Let's stop the code and then run that again. And if we take a look at that, we see that, open this up, and you see that it's a kind of it feels like, I think it's a kind of a span 2 columns the way that I'm actually saying it. All right, so let's add some other parameters right here. So for instance, I want it in such a way that we should be able to like define a submit button right here. I'm going to just put that in something like a function right here. Let's call this submit, and if we do have that right there as a function, it means that we can get down here. What I want to do is just, let's say, print, and I'm going to just enter my F literal right here just to format the text, and we can actually go ahead and then print something like the username right here. And to do that, we're going to just do user. This is going to be username, and then we can actually go ahead, if we throw in this, we can reference to that username by maybe copying and pasting our username. We're going to copy this right here, this variable right here, and then go ahead and put it right here, and we can do .get if we want to get the whatever that the person kind of types into that particular field in there. All right, so that is it on that. Like, we can basically introduce a comma here. Maybe if we want to get the password field, we can I'm going to just copy right here. Let's go ahead and copy this, and then go ahead and paste this right here. So this one is actually going to be for that of the password. So I'm going to just change this to, let's make sure change that to password entry right there. All right, so let's make sure type that correctly. This is going to be password entry dot get, and that is just basically going to get the password field for us. All right, and we have that in there. All right, so we have, if we save the changes and run this just not going to actually do anything on its own unless we are able to like, let's run this again. Okay, we're even having an issue right here. I think right here on this section of the application, we're having some issues right there. So it says a syntax error expected this right here. And why is that right there? So we do have it this right here. Okay, yes, that's true. So this is a function, we need to pass this in right here. So stop that and run that again, and then we'll have this right here. And if you type your name in here, let's say this is going to be Chiji, okay? And then maybe we'll type a password in here, maybe Victor as a password in there, then hit on submit. First of all, I want to minimize this a little bit, and then keep typing, hitting on this place. We're not actually going to be getting anything maybe down here or something of that nature. All right, unless you do, I think what you need to do is that we need to pass an extra parameter right here. So I'm going to just basically introduce a comment here. And the extra parameter that I want to pass is to be sure that I'm going to just do command right here and go ahead and set the command to submit. All right. So I'm going to just do submit right here, and let's go ahead and then save the changes. And with that, I think we should be able to like get the password right now if we begin to type our password into that password field in there. So this is going to be Chiji, okay, and this is going to be David. That's the password. And if you hit on submit, you should be able to get that down here. So look at the username right here, and here is the password. But we can also add a label for this if we want to do that. So if we take a look in here, and we can just do something like this is going to be password, just like that. If we run the code again, hitting here, and we want to okay, let me close out first and the second, and I want to run this code again one more time, stop and run. And if you run that, we can actually start right here. I want to make this a little bit larger so that you can see whatever that I'm actually doing. All right, so within this field right here, I'm going to just do my name in there. And let's say this is going to be David1. And if you hit on submit, you see that we do get the username right here, and then we'll got the password right here. All right, so that's just basically how we can actually work with that of the widgets in that of the Tkinter. And if I've seen how we did that, we're able to create a label, and a label is actually this field that we do have right here. So we created a label called a username, and then we created an input field right there. Also created another label called password, and an input field right here. And after that, we created this submit button right here, which is just basically a button. So this is just how we can actually create a button in that of the Tkinter. All right, so I hope you guys kind of like that, and then I think I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.